It is March 15th here in Leland, North Carolina. It is a beautiful day. It's about 60 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. We had just a brutal night last night. We were forecast to have a low of about 29 degrees, and we actually hit 23. So my Rosella Purple experiment came to an abrupt halt. That thing is cooked dead. I left that one in the greenhouse, and apparently that greenhouse is not sufficient to protect the Rosella Purple from a frost. It was so humid in there. Clearly the air was able to condense in there and form frost. The tomato I brought into the house did just fine. Obviously that was in the garage. It faced 40-degree temperatures, but no condensing frost. The plants in here are really starting to get out of control. I did not factor in how much this greenhouse would accelerate the growth of the plants. Now, I'm used to getting my plants in the ground sometime between April 15th to May 1st in Pennsylvania. Here I shot for a month early, but I did not factor in the incredible growth this greenhouse would accelerate the process. So what I'm going to do is I need to get my 3 biggest indeterminates into the ground. It's so windy here, they're blowing around everywhere. I have, it's just stuck. Here I have a Cherokee Purple. It's got to be close to 1.5 feet tall. You can see how big the root system is getting in here. It's grown so fast. This is actually a second transplant. The Brandy Boy is the biggest of them all. All the roots are stuck in this little tiny cup, and it's getting close to being 2 feet tall. This is a potato leaf variety. I had great success with it last year, and it needs to get planted. And then the mortgage lifter, you can see just this awesome root system that it has. And it's got to get out of this cup, and I'm going to put it in containers today. And if you remember these containers, I prepped these. Some of these I prepped a week ago, some of these I prepped 2 weeks ago, but they are a mixture of cow manure and topsoil supplemented with an organic 555 fertilizer, in this case Dr. Earth's, with some added bone meal, crab and lobster shell meal, and some Epsom salt. So these have been sitting, breaking down for a little while, and I'm going to plant these tomatoes early. Now, I'm only going to plant these tomatoes early because they are going into containers. This would be a terrible, terrible idea if you're putting them into a bed. So our last freeze day here is usually sometime between March 15th to the 30th, with the last frost date being sometime between March 30th and April 14th. So there's a good chance these tomatoes might be subject to another freeze and several light frosts. So if that happens, I'm going to have to take these 20-gallon containers, put them on my garden cart, and bring them into the garage for the night. Now that's not a big deal for me because a couple of heavy lifts over the next couple of weeks to get tomatoes extra early, small price to pay for me. But if you were to put these in a garden bed, there's a good chance they'll get killed because you just won't be able to protect them properly. If you get a hard freeze, there's just too much risk. So for everybody, all gardeners, whether you plant in containers or beds, if you plant just in beds, I recommend having a few container varieties just because you can get a nice jump start on the season. So I'll set up a tripod. I'll show you how I'm going to plant my tomatoes in the 20-gallon containers that I already prepped. Okay, so here we have dug our hole for the plant. So basically what you want to do is you want to dig about halfway down, and you want to loosen the dirt up as best you can. So the roots have a nice easy medium to traverse through. Now if you remember, I already fertilized these, so we're not going to add too much more. We're going to put just a little handful of 555 and a little bit more bone meal to encourage root growth. And then I'm going to mix this in to the dirt because you don't want to ever put your roots directly into contact with fertilizer. 'Cause Now you can see how nice this root system is. And it's getting to the point where the container is going to start choking it off. Now, you don't want to plant your plants high. Tomatoes have the unique ability to be able to grow roots up through the stem. That's what all these little hairs are. They will root in contact with moist soil. So I want to give this tomato as best of a root system as I possibly can. So I'm going to pinch off the lower stems. And I'm going to bury this tomato about to those lower stems that I just pinched off. Stand it up straight as you can. And then you will pat it down gently, and then you'll water it in. This will take probably about a gallon of water. You need to keep the ground moist to encourage the root growth. And I'm going to follow this procedure for all 3 of these tomatoes. And we'll follow the exact same process for these 2 tomatoes. You don't want to over-fertilize, it's easy to do. Fluff that up a little bit, give the roots a little bit more surface area to grab onto. I lose half my potting soil. Tomatoes get the majority of their diseases from pathogens in the soil. But luckily, young tomatoes are very resilient against them. They become more prone to them as they age. There's no exact science for this. Just do the best you can. And remember to water them. I really don't want to cut this off. The leaves are basically the solar panel of the tomato. I'm going to leave this one on. And that's really all there is to it. Alright, now that these tomatoes have been planted, I'm going to water them in. This is a 2-gallon watering container, so this should be enough to pretty much water in all 3 of the tomatoes. Now, if you've noticed, over to the right here, I have this frost cloth. So most of my lows for the next 2 weeks are forecast to be in the 45 to 53 degree range, and you generally want to wait until 50s to plant your tomatoes. They like about 50 degrees as seedlings, and then 60 degrees as a low for mature plants. But I'm going to cover these nonetheless because I want to insulate them. It's not unusual for the lows here. I live in a cold spot. It's not unusual for it to be 5 degrees colder here than what's forecast. So no matter what, I'm going to cover them. And then I have a few questionable temperatures next week. I'm going to bring them in that night Those nights, luckily, they're not too heavy, and I have a cart to move them around. But we will see how they do. Moving forward, we have some nice 70-degree weather coming up, and I expect them to explode with new growth. We will find out.